Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very important extra cycle and a very special extra cycle as we give our Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness review. Now, before we start, we have recorded this before, and the file did get corrupted and it did not work out well. So some of these points we will be repeating again, and we'll probably mention that multiple times. So we'll just leave that disclaimer there. So if things sound repetitive or we mention that we've already said that before, then that's why. Also, this is going to be a spoiler review. Everything we talk about will contain spoilers, so click off now if you haven't seen the movie. And if you haven't seen the movie, I don't really know why you clicked on this to begin with. Go see the movie. It's been out for like a week by this point, so go ahead and do that. And so I guess we will just start with what are you guys' general impressions about the movie? Because based on social media, people are very split on this movie. I have some people saying that this movie is like a top 5 MCU movie, and then there's other people who think this is like a bottom tier movie. So just like general impressions, like what we got here.
I think for me, it's not. I don't think I'm as polarized by this movie as the internet really is. Like you're very right about that, Justin. There are some people that are saying this is the greatest Marvel movie ever created, and then other people want to find Sam Raimi and make sure that he never directs another movie ever again. But I think it's weird because there are aspects that I absolutely loved about the movie, but then other kind of some character choices and some other things that were going into it that I didn't really like. So I think for me, it kind of just ends up being sort of like a on the higher end of Marvel movies because usually Marvel movies on average they've kind of gotten to the point where they're not terrible anymore, but they're kind of just mid at worst. And this is definitely a little bit above that. It's not mid, it's not just average. It's definitely above average, but it's not getting into that upper echelon of some of the best work that I think Marvel's put out there.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I don't think that I hated the movie at all. I also wasn't blown away by it. I would say I'm kind of more so in the middle. I do think it was a nice, the movie was definitely different from what Marvel did. At first, I was calling it weird for the longest time, but if I'm just thinking about it, it's just different from what Marvel's done, and that's not bad at all. Um, I do think that there were parts I do think that parts of it could have been a lot better, um, and parts of it I would have liked to have been done differently. But overall, um, I thought it was a pretty engaging movie. I just wouldn't go see it a second time, to be honest.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think what sticks out to me the most about the movie is they were willing to do something completely different that they had never done before, and they should be applauded for doing that. We have lived in a world where Phase 1 became repetitive. You had Ant-Man and Doctor Strange, which were kind of just knockoff Iron Man origin story kind of things, and they started to feel repetitive. And I thought Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and Ant-Man 2 were very similar tone-wise. So I think they kind of got into a rut where they were repeating a lot of stuff, and now they were kind of just going for these huge blockbusters and just bringing everyone in, and they exceeded they exceeded I don't know exceeded my expectations, but they shocked me with what they did because I never expected them to take this film in such a horror direction. And did all of it work? No, but I think a lot of it did work, and it is so different. There's not a movie I can't even sit here and say that there is an MCU movie that's what would be the closest movie to it. There isn't. There simply is not one
Yeah, I would
because
agree.
there's maybe Age of Ultron, but there's nothing scary about any of the MCU movies. I don't even know if there's a jump scare in any other MCU movies besides this one.
There's got
Yeah,
to be some throwaway one at some point, but again, it's so irrelevant that you can't even think of it.
Yeah, so I think they should be applauded for that. I think there's sometimes some sort of story issues and some weird pacing stuff. I don't even know I can't even describe what the pacing issues are with the film, but they're just there.
Yeah.
And some underdevelopment, but other than that, I think the film is very good. I'm a little bit higher on it than you two, but like I said, I know a lot social media wise and what you see out there, people are very polarized on this film. I've heard people say it's one of the worst MCU's ever put out, and I think I have it top 11 or something, so which is quite high, but I guess we might as well just go right into it, and I think we'll try to go in chronological order, and if we drift off from there, so be it. So opening scene, we go right into it. There's no like
Spanish Doctor Strange.
Yeah, Spanish Doctor Strange running through I don't remember what they call it, but
whatever the dimension between dimensions that has the book of everything.
Book of Ashanti.
Krishanti,
Yeah, Ashanti. So you got Doctor Strange, Spanish Doctor Strange, running through there with America Chavez, and kind of like right into it. Like already feel like they're like putting pressure on. Like you're already invested and you're already like getting right into the story. So I think that was really cool. I don't know like what you guys thought, but I was just like, oh man, we're here.
Yeah, there was no like cold open, like kind of warming everybody up. It's like, no, we're getting into this right now.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely I couldn't see it, unfortunately, on Thursday night when the rest of the guys saw it. So I was watching the first Doctor Strange to try to feel like, like I was at least watching a Marvel movie. But it's a total different change. Like, it's a total change of pace from, I would say, the first Doctor Strange. I would say the closest thing, if I recall correctly, to like that, like no cold open would probably be Infinity War, right? How it kind of just like jumped into the action like towards like the very beginning. You're already engaged. Now I wouldn't say it's close to as good a movie as Infinity War, but that was probably like what I was thinking. Like, wow, okay, we're already here. There's no waiting, straight to the action.
Yeah.
I think what's cool after you watch the whole film is you have no idea that monster is from Wanda. Like, you have zero idea that she's the big villain of the film. Like, I just saw that and I was like, that's interesting. I was like, that's cool, but that you didn't really know it all, so you're just kind of like, oh, this is really, like, what is this beast chasing them? Like, the beast wants to steal its powers, and whatnot, and you kind of already get teased to it. And I heard another YouTuber talking about this, so I won't try to take credit for it, but they already tell you the Book of Ashanti, like, very early on, they're like, the Book of Ashanti, if you get this thing, it'll let the person do anything to defeat the villain.
I love how they set it up. Yeah, exactly.
It's the dumbest thing ever, but obviously we'll get to it. You don't use it. It just gets destroyed.
I loved that so much that they set it up as the stupidest MacGuffin on the planet. It's like, it's the most vague description of like what its powers are. It's like, it can give the user whatever you want. It's like, what does that even mean? Like, do you like use the spells from it? Does it just like give you unlimited power? Like, what is happening? And then they're just like, no, we're just gonna light it on fire. It's fun.
When I was thinking of that, I also thought of Kung Fu Panda. Like the scroll that the dragon.
Oh yeah.
Like you open up the scroll, there's nothing there, and you might as well have done the same thing with this book because there was nothing that like the book did in the movie.
I seriously thought they were gonna open the book and there was gonna be nothing in it. I really thought that's what they were gonna do, but instead I was like, they lit on fire. I was like, oh, that works too.
Yeah.
Well, and there was even a point when they opened it where I was like, and we're getting ahead of ourselves, but there was a point where they opened it where I was like, what's gonna happen for the rest of the movie? I was like, they're gonna beat them. Like the Book of Ashanti's gonna give them whatever they need to beat their opponent. It's stupid, but and then it got destroyed. So I thought that was just really cool because it was like, man, this book is really weird, really powerful, and a big plot convenience.
Exactly.
And then it just didn't end up working. So I thought that was pretty cool. So then going off of that, I think they go right into where they're talking about how like when you dream, you're seeing some of your other multiverse self. And I think that's cool. Like we all are like, what the hell are dreams and whatnot. Yeah. And now I dreamt last night. I was like, what's that mean? A different like universe? Like holy crap! Like
start bugging.
Yeah. So I did like how they set that up, and I mean, there's not much to go on. I think in the beginning, I think some people are torn about this. So I want to get your guys' thoughts about it. Like, what did we think about like the whole Doctor Strange going to Christine's wedding, going into that first fight scene where Doctor Strange and Wong are fighting the octopus guy?
I mean, I personally really liked how they kind of handled that, and they kind of do have like a bit of a throwaway line where like Strange sits down. It's like one of the other doctors like comes and sits down next to him.
Dr. West, the worst human ever.
Literally the worst human being on the planet. Where the guy looks at him and he's like, "Was that the only option?" And he's like, "Yes." But the thing is that like it's a very human reaction to be like jaded about something like that, to be upset, to be like, oh, like how could you not see another option? Like my life could have been any better. But Strange has to carry the weight. Like, yeah, I had to make the decision. I saw 1 out of 14 million chances that we could possibly win, and a lot of people are going to die anyway. But in the, what was the one line that he said, like, in the grand calculus of the multiverse or something like that, where it's like, this is the best option we have, and he has to carry that every day, and people are still like, screw you, man, my cat's died. It's like, man, I was doing my best, okay?
Yeah, I agree. I think that was absolutely ridiculous. Obviously, I think it's pretty bold to be going up to Doctor Strange and like, criticizing a decision he made, especially considering that if he hadn't made that decision, they would have lost. Like,
Yeah.
none of them would have been sitting there. I mean, Doctor Strange himself, he got snapped away, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like he did that and was trying to make a selfish decision to keep himself alive. He actually went away. He lost time. What didn't he lose the?
He lost the girl. That's the entire point.
But he lost the girl, and also he lost being the Sorcerer Supreme, right?
Yes.
Yes.
He lost that to Wong, and that was a pretty funny running bit.
It was on a technicality. He says it during No Way Home. He goes,
Yeah.
Peter Parker's like, aren't you Sorcerer Supreme? He's like, no, Wong got it on a technicality because that was blipped.
Yeah. So I thought that was cool. I thought it was a very moment when he had to go watch the girl of his dreams get married. And it's not like he disliked the guy or anything. It's just he has to watch that. And then, I mean, at the wedding, he does that power move of switching getting red
Very on the nose, water to wine. So funny. Like, that's the most neurosurgeon thing to do, just to literally compare yourself to Jesus. Like,
yeah. Well, I think I think people say that is like there's cheesy things in the movie, but I think it's funny. Like, it's not meant to be taken seriously.
And he also doesn't take it seriously. Like, he makes the joke where he's like a little too on the nose, like something like that. It's like he's playing into that's the joke. It's like that he's trying to not take himself too seriously while also making a reference to calling himself Jesus. Like, that's funny. That's the point.
It's hilarious. So I dug the scene. I think they set up Christine well, because it's weird. Like, you see her in the first Doctor Strange. They have her in the What If episode. And it's obviously a big deal to Doctor Strange, and you see him go to the wedding, and you can tell it hurts, but he was like blipped for 5 years, and they set it up as a oh, Doctor Strange, that was the only way, right? And then Christine says to him that she admired that he always had to hold the knife, but she couldn't love him for it. Yeah. And it kind of becomes one of the themes of the movie that Doctor Strange makes decisions, and they're not always good decisions.
Right.
And they explore that later with the Illuminati, and also I think, and we'll talk about this later, I think it makes No Way Home better. My biggest issue with No Way Home is the setup is that Doctor Strange impulsively did a spell for Peter Parker without talking to him for 10 minutes before doing it. But now it makes sense because Doctor Strange makes bad decisions all the time, and that's why
he thinks he can fix everything all the time. He thinks he's that guy, but as it turns out, he is in fact not always that guy.
Yeah.
And I guess that to the fight with the octopus being, I think it was cool, but I was a little bit underwhelmed because we had seen so much cool magic previously, and even in Endgame, there was these scenes of him using some weird water tornadoes and putting his enemies sink them into the ground and whatnot, and we just kind of didn't see any of that. There was this buzzsaw thing that was on every single trailer. They used the cape, and whatnot.
Of course.
No, I mean, I absolutely love when he picks up the street light, and chucks it through the thing's eye.
That was really good.
That was cool. But I do think, I don't know about you guys, but I was a little underwhelmed about what they kind of pulled off for that scene.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's some of it was creative, but it almost is we've kind of seen very similar stuff to that. It's oh, he's making the giant buzzsaw, whatever, but it's but it's still that same whatever magic that the ancient one used, that he uses with the little whip thing, even with the sling ring. It all looks like the same type of magic. So it's it's not really anything we couldn't expect. But then it's when he starts to kind of use a little bit more of the monster stuff, where it's he makes the big hands, whatever, then he controls them. Yep. Or he has the dragons come out of his hand. That stuff's pretty cool, but it's that's the only kind of crazy thing. It's he has the whip thing, and then a little bit of the monster stuff, and then that's it. There's no different colors of anything. It's all this orangey kind of sparkly stuff. That's it. That's all he has.
I really wasn't that impressed with the scene, especially like what you guys have been saying. I 100% agree with. I kind of was just waiting for it to get like to be over with and get to the point because
Hmm.
I understood. Okay, it's not like this. This monster is going to be able to be the main villain or anything.
Exactly.
I was like, okay, he's going to be doing the same magic we've seen him doing. It would have been cool. I feel like it would have been cooler and you know more hardcore if he, saw all these people running away, and then just absolutely destroyed this monster without like even really raising a finger. It would have been definitely crazy though later on in the movie seeing like I guess the power disparity between him and Wanda,
Hmm.
because that would have just been wild, showing like how powerful she just is. But I really was just kind of waiting for the scene to get like that scene to finish, and then we could just get on to like the
Yeah.
more important plot of the movie. Even though that was kind of it was kind of important to it. I mean, that had to do with the overarching plot.
Yeah,
But yeah,
and I
I
like
wasn't
I
really
won't. Yeah, and I won't knock it too much. I mean, like it's one of the intro fights. They don't want to like pull out all their bag of tricks. Right there, it's not even going into any horror aspects unless like the eye a little bit. But like, it was definitely a sense of like, wow, I would have liked to see Doctor Strange do something cool. But it also, and leading into our next topic about Wanda, it also shows how like this is a creature that Wanda conjured, and like you need to set the point that Wanda is just infinitely powerful than everyone else because of the movie. So then after that, we pretty much they're just like, oh yeah, runes Wanda, and they go to Wanda. And I think this is where also there's a little bit of an issue because they move really quickly, and you don't see. And I mean, I guess it's the point, but you also see none of Wanda. The last time we see Wanda is she's reading the Darkhold in her astral form at the end of WandaVision, which again, that she's reading the Darkhold, so it gives you a sense of what she's reading. But no, I don't think anyone thought she was going to be the villain for the entire movie. A lot of people thought like a different multiverse version of Wanda would be the villain, but she's just outright the villain for the whole movie. And she's not even the villain since like
Yeah.
in the end of the movie. She's the villain since the first 10 minutes. Like,
And she doesn't even like. She just says she's the villain too. Like
Yeah.
it's not even like a big reveal. They don't even treat it like anything. It's like they try and do the thing where it's like, oh, she like switches the apple orchard to like be this like crazy place, but they're both like very calm about it. Like Doctor Strange really doesn't seem that surprised at all that she's like turning evil. He's just like, oh, cool. Guess I got to deal with this now. And
but
then
I
Wanda's
always
just
love
like,
that though. He's just
oh
like,
yeah, like I'm
he's
just gonna
unfazed.
yeah, and then Wanda's like, yeah, I'm willing to kill anybody to get these kids. It's like, okay, cool. Guess this is the story now.
Yeah, I mean, I really, I didn't see it coming that Wanda would literally be the whole, like, the villain the entire movie. When they did switch the, like, peaceful apple orchard to, like, the red, like, dead forest or whatever you would call it,
Yeah.
um, I was surprised, like, how calm they really were. They really, like, Doctor
Yeah.
Strange was really like, yeah, okay. He was really like, okay, maybe I could have seen this coming. And like even seeing like certain scenes in it, like Justin, you're right, because I was expecting, okay, there's probably going to be another version of Wanda, because in one of the trailers you had seen two Wandas in the room. That scene where the Scarlet Witch is on the ground, like crying out in agony. Then you have like the like Wanda like walking towards her. I was like, okay, there's clearly got to be two. I didn't realize that, Wanda being the one that we all know and have known since Age of Ultron was going to be the villain. So I thought that was cool, unexpected. But yeah, those are my thoughts.
I think it was quick. I mean, there is a 2 hour and 40 minute cut of the film, that they didn't release, and I'm glad the film wasn't 2 hours and 40 minutes because we're definitely with the MCU getting into a lot of like territory where we're having these super long films, and we need to go away from that. I understand it's not the
Yeah.
mid 1900s where we're making short films, but also we can't be having not 3 hour films. There's been great films made that sit within a 2.5 hour window or less, or even like just above 2 hours. So I think
Yeah.
that's where they should find it. But you can kind of see there were like probably they could have added 5-10 more minutes of setup.
Build up to Wanda, I think.
Yeah, even so much so that like you kind of flashed back to what Wanda was doing in the meantime. But again, the premise is pretty simple. She read the Darkhold and it corrupted her.
Yeah.
And you don't even necessarily know that by this point. But this moves into Karmatage, and honestly, I thought off the rip this was just super cool. Like they were preparing for a war against one person.
Yeah.
One witch.
And they got
all of
smoked.
And they got their pact smoked.
It's because that one guy folded. He was mentally weak, and then Wanda got into his head, and then boom, the entire shield.
That one
fell.
dude was just such a simp for Wanda, and he just
Yeah.
collapsed.
But
I mean, yeah, it was absolutely wild. Wanda, I didn't realize how much more how much more powerful Wanda was than Doctor Strange. I thought it would be like a pretty good battle. I didn't realize that she's just like that girl.
Yeah,
Like,
that's the thing, is like, because where they were able to kind of like show in WandaVision especially, where it's like, you know how like at first they kind of made it where like, oh, her powers are tied to the Reality Stone, whatever, but then they kind of show it's like, no, she is the Scarlet Witch. This was kind of just like the key for her to like slowly start to unlock that, because like in the comics especially, it's like there's like a couple characters that are like reality bending, like top tier, like the most powerful, like it's like Scarlet Witch, the Dark Phoenix, like I think Doctor Strange at one point's been up there, like just as like the peak, like these are the heavy hitters, and she is like, yeah, just phasing through realities, just doing whatever she wants. So the fact that she's a villain, I thought was really, really cool, because it's like it really showed how terrifying some of these heroes can be, because they're so unbelievably powerful. And it's like, yeah, you have this entire army of wizards, and they just get smoked in like 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I have one thing to say, right quick. I am still Team Cap from from Civil War, but did they have a point with the Sokovia Accords?
They did have
get
a
out of my face.
Looking back at this,
what was the U.S. government going to do? What was the U.S. government going to do? Tell me right now. Tell me right now.
I'm still Team Cap. I'm still Team Cap. But I think the idea to like maybe be like, yo, some of these like superheroes, such as Wanda specifically, should like maybe like chill out and like maybe be regulated.
Who's gonna stop her? Who is gonna stop her?
I want to make it clear. I am still Team Cap. I'm just thinking, you know what? Maybe they weren't. Like I was very much so Team Cap. I'm now thinking, okay, I see the other side's point, because she did this thing in New Jersey. That was Wanda.
Yeah, she created Central Jersey because it doesn't exist. So she just like made that real quick.
So she created Central Jersey,
yes,
and enslaved the minds of like an entire town.
Yeah.
And then she goes and sets multiversal like monsters, to catch.
Well, she started an incursion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
nearly collapsed multiple realities.
I think they kind of do have a fair point, but I don't think the government would have been able to stop.
It's like,
no, clearly not. Because one of my favorite parts
walk
is
up and shoot her. Like,
yeah,
what?
Because one of my favorite parts is that Doctor Strange doesn't pretend to be able to stop her. Doctor Strange knows he's gonna get folded. This is why all of Carmitage go. Doctor Strange is an arrogant character, and he full well knows that he cannot fight Wanda on his own, and he doesn't even try.
That was there was another funny bit with that, where you know how it's like Wong is always saying, like he always like makes sure to say that he's the Sorcerer Supreme, but then Doctor Strange is the one that goes and talks to Wanda, because he's clearly the better wizard. It's like, oh no, you can go do that though, that's fine.
And they set up the little like payoff at the end when he bows, which is just a cool thing. Like really him just respect. He's like, oh, it's a technicality and whatever. Which side note, I don't know how Wong got on a technicality. Like Wong has just been a wizard for longer. It's not a technicality. Like it's just facts.
Yeah, he's been a wizard for a lot longer.
Like I don't know how he won it on a technicality. Like Doctor Strange did get snapped, but even if he didn't get snapped, Wong should still be the Sorcerer Supreme.
Like realistically, he should. Because like wasn't he like second in command to? Yes. Oh wait. Wasn't that
Mordo?
But then Mordo's gone, so it should be Wong.
Do you think they're going to do something with Mordo from this Earth? Because nobody knows where he's at.
Actually, that kind of gets into a little bit later, but where Doctor Strange says something about how Mordo in his universe like vowed to kill him, but he didn't know that yet. He just said like, you like. Whatever, the Ancient One lost her way, whatever, and he like left. In the post-credit scene, he was saying to like some guy that he's about to kill, that he's gonna kill wizards. Doctor Strange didn't know that. So like, is there a movie that we missed?
I don't think so. Maybe they just screwed up, or maybe like
they don't screw up.
First post-credit scene, I saw that like it looks like the Doctor Strange and whatever or whoever that woman was that was with him were going to like fight someone that looks like Dormammu.
Yeah, is
So
some relation to Dormammu. Yeah, it's the
maybe
whole
it'll
thing.
come up like that or something like that, but I don't know.
Maybe.
And it's
Hopefully
also
it
just been
does.
wild thinking about Scarlet Witch's progression and like Wanda's progression from like Age of Ultron. Anybody could have folded her. Like Cap could have destroyed her. I'm pretty sure. Actually, no, that didn't happen in that.
Cap?
But
I was about to say, what?
Cap could have folded her in Age of Ultron, though.
I mean,
In
I
Age,
guess.
she was not powerful at all in Age of Ultron.
No,
Like,
she needed a pep talk from Hawkeye to get going.
After
Yeah.
the pep talk, he was not smoking her. Yeah.
but like, it's just wild that she. Was,
Jacob,
like,
I would disagree.
that
Wanda
weak.
folded the Avengers. She got into all their minds.
She ripped
Well, they weren't
Ultron's
ready
heart
for it.
out.
Like, if now that they were ready for it, I feel like they could prevent it. And like,
Maybe.
Hawkeye was the one that she tried to get into his mind. He was like, "No, that's already happened to me. I'm not going to let it happen a second time."
Which
and then
makes
hit her with,
no
like,
sense,
that arrow
but all right.
thing. And because that happened, because he got.
I know the bit, but it doesn't make sense specifically why he would be able to stop her. Like
Yeah.
out of all of
I
people,
don't know, because Hawkeye's cool.
because he's dope.
Yeah, because people with bow and arrows are cool.
Yeah, Hawkeye's
So-
better than Arrow. Get out of
Shout
my face.
out, shout out Oliver Queen.
Oliver Queen would fold Hawkeye.
You wish.
He would. But anyways,
What's
like,
his,
it was
drama
just
strength
wild
again?
seeing the
Sorry.
progression. What?
What? I didn't say anything.
I did hear. I did legitimately.
What's the draw weight on Green Arrow's bow again?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
Legitimately,
it's
no
not
idea.
even close to Hawkeye's, which is a 250-pound draw weight. It's insane.
Okay.
So yeah.
Anyway,
Anyway.
so Carmitage fight's going down. I think it's really cool that they're like that they bring back, and especially with Sam Raimi as director. I mean, I know a lot of people who work on these Marvel projects are still there during production, but it's cool that like a Sam Raimi film, he hasn't been in the MCU, and he brings back one of Wanda's like old powers to get into people's minds. Like, I forgot she could do that, and then when she got into someone's mind, I was like, that was from Age of Ultron. I was
Yeah.
like super hyped, so that was cool. And then she got stuck in the mirror dimension. I was like, damn, okay, who's the villain of the movie then? Like Dark Doctor Strange? And she crawls out of the mirror dimension
That was a really
through the
good
reflections.
scene.
Yeah.
And that was so cool.
Like that was a very clearly like Sam Raimi scene. Like you could tell he had like a lot of it's like, and that actually kind of gets into like the film in general. There was a lot of personality behind the camera, like with the cinematography and the directing. Like you could clearly tell Sam Raimi directed this, or like the camera would constantly like pan over, like zoom into someone's face, or like he was like really trying to like push like those like horror elements that you can kind of see in movies like Evil Dead, and even the one scene in the one of the original Spider-Man movies with Doc Ock where it was like whatever the surgery scene where like the arms kind of like trying to
Yep.
like kill all the surgeons in there. Like that was legit. Like that was actually kind of terrifying as a kid. But yeah, like that was such a good scene where she was just like snatching people like into the puddles. Like that, seeing that for the first time, it's like, oh my god, what is happening?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then after that, we kind of go over to, now we're moving to Next Earth. I think at that point, pretty much
Yeah.
America and Doctor Strange go through realities, which is they just like pop through a full multiverses, and that's fun. Like paint, and then they're
Yeah.
animated and they're falling through a really high tech place, and I think it's just cool. Like you see a bunch of different possibilities, but I'm glad we didn't spend too much time there, and we drop down in this other Earth,
Was it 838? I think.
838, something like that.
I
Yeah.
think so.
And Wanda kind of kills everyone there and gets control of the Darkhold at that point and starts to think about dreamwalking. And we kind of learn more about America Chavez through like they step on these like show your memory things, which are just kind of weird.
That was so weird.
Because why would they show your memories to everyone?
Exactly.
That is really weird.
But I
Also,
guess
why is that just in the street? Like what?
like everyone in the street just watched America's moms just like disappear.
just get like murdered. Like what?
Like I was like, okay, it works.
Cool.
And they just walk Doctor Strange just like be sad because he doesn't have his
Yeah.
girlfriend anymore. So it was like whatever, but
Yeah.
big plot convenience. But eventually, they're on the Earth and they meet Mordo, and it's pretty cool. I'm like, man, is this Mordo good? Is this Mordo bad?
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's good. I was like, this is so cool. They're
Yeah.
teaming up. Like, and then he just drinks tea, and it doesn't
Like,
go so well.
Also, how does he
Yeah.
not like know that there's something in the tea if he's a wizard? Like I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's like the whole point of it is that like the whatever the magic stuff that he said he created himself. Maybe it was like the wizards can't detect it or whatever. Because I feel like that'd be a very like good thing for a wizard to know. It's like, oh, if I'm gonna consume this, doesn't have anything I shouldn't be consuming.
Yeah.
Right.
No, for sure. So like, yeah. What were you saying, Jacob?
I was gonna say, I guess Doctor Strange isn't as smooth and good as he thinks he is. If he got by Mordo,
Oh yeah.
kind of the second time.
Well, he trusted him a little bit too much, and it was a
Yeah, that's
mistake. So
true.
at this point, I think we start to pan back, and Wanda's starting to dreamwalk, and I think the idea of dreamwalking is super cool.
It's
Yeah.
literally just possession. Like that's
Yeah.
crazy.
I mean, yeah, I agree.
And so
Yeah,
she
but-
starts to do that, and like you can see that she's emotionally like satisfied because she's like just able to take over this other character, this other Wanda, and she gets to see her kids. But also she knows that the job ain't done yet. Job's not finished,
Job's not
And-
finished.
and
Yeah.
she decides she needs to go track down the others while they're trapped up with the Illuminati. So now I feel like we're gonna get into the most controversial part of the film. What I don't think is controversial and what I think is awesome about this film is so many people are pissed off about, and that is the Illuminati. So I need to know.
Body.
So I need to know. I guess I'll just start. I loved what they did with the Illuminati. This movie is called Doctor Strange.
There's Captain Carter.
There's Captain Carter. This movie is called Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. The film is about a villain, Wanda, and a protagonist, America Chavez, and Doctor Strange. It is not about Reed Richards and Captain Carter and Captain Marvel, but she's Maria Rambeau, or about Professor X, or about Deathpool. It's not about them. It's cool that they made an appearance because they're in a different multiverse and things are done differently. But I had no problem with them getting folded because they should have gotten folded because it is Wanda. Captain Carter has a shield. Reed Richards.
Oh, and a
he's-
jetpack. Don't worry. Don't forget that.
that was pretty cool. I was like, okay, jetpack.
Oh, that's good.
Reed Richards, John Krasinski's Reed Richards was cool, but you know what? He's just elastic.
It's melted.
Yeah, like he's not special at all. Captain Marvel, I liked what they did with her because she's gotten a bad rap in the MCU,
But why did
and
she
they actually
die
had
of
her.
falling rubble though?
She did. That was kind of weak, but she held her own for a little bit, which was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was actually a fight to be had, and
Yeah.
and
Black
Deathbolt
Bolt
like
got
Black
smoked.
Bolt, yeah, he got
That
smoked,
was
but it makes
brutal.
sense because
Yeah.
Black Bolt doesn't do anything else but just a sound thing out of his head. So
Yeah.
like, there wasn't really anything like cool. I think it's funny how Reed Richards was like, one blast from Black Bolt and you're
Oh yeah,
dead.
just like it's like standing there, literally just posted up, and she's like, "What mouth?"
Yeah.
And then it just like comes back, and then it's like, dude, that was so brutal though. Where, like you saw the side of his head like turn into like liquid and like come down.
Yeah.
Like, this has to be one of the hardest PG-13s I have ever seen. Like
It-
that
it
was
is-
nuts.
It's an R movie.
It has to be.
shocked.
The dude's
they got-
brain was coming out of his nose. Like what?
Captain Carter got sliced in half.
Like
Well, the thing about it all is, even if they were to be able to beat her, they would have beaten the variant. They still wouldn't have
beat Scarlet Witch. Yeah.
She could have just pulled up to that, like,
Eventually, yeah.
or just did. Could she have dreamwalked with another person? Does it have to specifically be one?
It has
I think
to
it
be her.
has to be. Yeah, I think it has to be them.
I think Doctor Strange would have possessed someone other than his dead body.
That's
Yeah.
That is
There are probably better options there.
that is
Like Wong.
Yeah, exactly. You could have just possessed Wong. Like,
But no, so I did jump a little bit ahead because right now they're like trapped in cage and they have a little moment with like the Earth 838 Christine, which I thought was cool because you can obviously see they have the connection, but the whole time Christine and Doctor Strange are both kind of like
weird.
they know they can't like
yeah.
get into a relationship or anything.
But they
because-
want to. But
they-
like,
yeah.
no, they can't. Like, yeah, it was good. I like that.
So I need to get everyone's opinions on like this sequence as a whole. I thought it was cool. You kind of see Christina a little bit like focused, like no, I'm in this multiverse. They did what they did. I think the Illuminati, kind of was like, yeah, we couldn't trust Doctor Strange, and this is why we can't trust you. And I thought it was cool. I was happy with what they did.
Yeah, I really liked how they kind of set that up between Strange and Christine because it's almost like what was that thing in Loki where it was like an absolute point, like a nexus point or something,
Right.
where it's like, yeah, where it's like it's an absolute thing, like it has to happen in every universe. It's like they're just like they want to be together, but it's just like everything is just pulling them apart, and it's like it just can't happen no matter how hard you try and attract these two together. It's like two opposite end magnets. It's like you want to force them together, but it just doesn't work. And I loved that dynamic where it's like they clearly care about each other, they clearly do, but it's like the relationship just doesn't work for one reason or another. And I also loved the way they handled the Illuminati. I loved that they basically checked off every single box of like all of those YouTubers that are always like, is it Mephisto? Is it this person that's going to be in the whatever? And it's like, they checked every single box and they're like, yeah, you like all these? Yeah, even Professor X. It's not even the X-Men Professor X. It's the 90s cartoon Professor X. Like they're pulling all of the stops out. They're like, yeah, all of them die in brutal fashion. Never to be seen again. They are very dead. Like, we're done with this. We're moving on. We have better things to do. I absolutely love that. That was such a good way to subvert expectations, where I was like, yeah, this is not a movie about these other characters. This is about Doctor Strange fighting Wanda. And if you're going to try and get in Wanda's way, this is what's going to happen. It doesn't matter how strong you are. There's pretty much nothing that is going to stop her.
I obviously feel differently, particularly about Professor X, because I think Patrick Stewart, I think Professor X, like, I don't know the X-Men timeline or anything like that. It's too complicated, too convoluted to figure out. But I still think that Patrick Stewart as an actor and Professor X's character, both super cool.
Oh, amazing.
I hated how he got pulled in. I wouldn't have I don't think it would have been great to have had him in the entire movie, but I think that it would have been cool to be able to introduce the X-Men into the MCU and like keep them in the MCU in some format. So when he died as quickly as he did, I was just absolutely mind blown, and I didn't like it a whole lot. I was shocked that John Krasinski was in the movie, because out of everything, I never even heard that like that he was going to be there. Like
we heard rumors about Reed Richards coming to WandaVision. I didn't hear crap about Reed Richards showing up in this movie.
There was way more smoke about Tom Cruise showing up as Iron Man than anything to do with Reed Richards.
I'm pretty sure somebody actually was like that was going to happen. I think the previous director, that was like the plan.
Yeah, I think that was the whole thing.
And I'm happy they didn't do that. I don't think Iron Man should show up in anything else except if it's flashbacks, because like in a different multiverse he did something for some.
Or if it's like legitimately a different character that is like going to take up the mantle as Iron Man. Like no more Tony Stark.
Like, I think it'd be really cool. This is really a side note. If they did some kind of version where like, I forget his name. The person who was in the cave with Tony Stark. I'm so upset.
Yinsen?
Yeah, him. If he like became a version of Iron Man, like Tony Stark died, but he took the suit.
Okay.
I think that would be a very cool like concept to see in another multiverse. Like, well, yeah, Tony Stark gave his life so I could get back to my family, so I carried on his legacy with the
Sounds
suit.
Like
or
what if season 2 to me?
That would be hype. I know, but
that would be pretty cool.
But yeah, so you didn't like the scene, Jacob?
But yeah, I mean, I don't really know much about Black Bolt. So when he died and he got his like mouth taken away, that was like real. When he first got his mouth taken away, I was like, wow, that's just absolutely wild, because it happened like with the blink of an eye, and then he got killed, and then
Murdered.
Yeah,
murdered,
and then murdered, and then what? Like Eminem says, what? Reed Richards got turned into mob spaghetti.
Oh my god!
So I mean, that happened. That blew my mind, because he was there, and I never thought he was going to be there, and then he's just gone. I like John Krasinski from The Office, of course. And then I mean,
I don't know about John Krasinski from there. I just know him from The Quiet Place.
Oh my god, you don't. Oh, you
okay, we're moving on. We cannot unpack all that right now. We have to move on.
That is.
We have to move on. We can't unpack that.
You know how bad that is, right?
Jacob, we've got to move on. We can't unpack all of that right now. Keep going, please.
Oh my goodness. That hurts. But yeah, like John Krasinski is amazing. So when he died, I was also shocked, but I was also happy he was there. Then obviously, Captain Carter, that was cool because of the What If series.
Super cool. I
Like
didn't
if
expect
I
to
have
see
a
it.
Lego for her. She shouldn't have survived the fight. Like she out of all the people should not have survived.
She should have gotten clapped immediately.
Oh, a
Yeah.
1000%. And then Monica Rambeau, or
Yeah, Monica Rambeau,
yeah,
Captain
yeah,
Marvel. Yeah.
yeah. So that was cool once I figured out, like, and realized, okay, who she was. But I was also surprised how easily she was killed.
Yeah.
Um, but overall, I thought that it is a really, like, I think you put it like right, saying it's like an absolute put it well, saying it's an absolute point in time that they'll never be together because they do clearly try, and it would be really weird if like that Christine came into like
Yeah.
the other
Yeah,
universe.
that's what I thought they were going to do, but I loved how they were just like, no,
Yeah,
this can't happen. It's like, yes,
Yeah.
that's what we need.
like could you imagine if like both
It's
Christines
so
saw each other,
weird.
and then they're like, yeah, we're they're on like a double date or something, and then
With
like,
the
wow,
same person.
yeah.
I don't think they'd be going on a double. Well, I guess Christine's husband really loves Doctor Strange.
Dude,
Yeah.
that would be. I would love to just see some like deleted scene of like that happening. Like that would be so funny.
It would
Yeah,
be
but-
painful.
Yeah, but I think the Illuminati. I just think it is a middle finger to everyone who is just like all about, like, they are called cameos for a reason. They cameoed.
Yeah.
Like I think too many people are throwing around the word like that. Like not Tom Holland. I always say that. Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire were cameos in No Way
No.
Home. They were not cameos.
They
They
were
were actual
characters,
characters in No Way Home. So like, no, like I know Professor X showed up and the people were like, oh well, it was in the trailer. Like it should have been a bigger deal. I think Professor X did kind of a lot for how short he was in. Like you saw Wanda, and I love the scene, trapped beneath all this
Yeah.
rubble. Like you could, that was clearly them telling you, Wanda is just corrupted by this book. It's not because Wanda herself is naturally bad, but she just got tempted by a book because she's trapped. So I thought that scene was really powerful because you were like, she's really corrupted. And then the neck snap, the fog and the neck snap is so brutally, it's so brutal, but it's so good. I just love what they did with it.
I hated that. It does leave open a potential um, Hail Mary of a theory I have shared before. I'll share with I share the Deadpool theory. I'll explain-
Enlighten me.
How about we share it at the end of the episode if
Okay,
we got
yeah,
some
yeah,
time?
yeah.
So then they get through the Illuminati. I also have to note, I love how Doctor Strange is like, they don't trust Doctor Strange because he's like makes bad decisions, and they made a bad decision in his universe. Like that's why the other Doctor Strange got killed.
Yeah.
With the Book of Vishanti. Thanos got killed, but then Deathbolt killed Doctor Strange.
Yes.
In their universe, and Doctor Strange is just begging them not to listen, like to just like listen to him, and they don't.
Yeah.
They will not listen to him, and they get folded.
It's like, should have listened to him.
Should have listened. Doctor Strange didn't say, "Let me handle it." He said, "You need to listen to me."
Exactly. It's like, you need to lock this place down or else you are all going to die.
I like the little fight scene between him and Mordo. Like no magic.
Yeah, they're just throwing haymakers.
Yeah, just it was fun. And then so they all run away. And they jump into that waypoint. Oh, that was a word, waypoint.
Yeah.
Between the universes, and I think it's just cool. Like they're like, oh, I'm like, we got to the Book of Vishanti. Like let's go. And nope, doesn't matter. Book gets killed.
So good. I loved that so much. I was like, yes.
And during this time, the Darkhold, I believe, no, it hadn't been destroyed yet.
No, it had, I think.
No, because Wanda's still chasing them.
Oh,
But
right,
this
right,
is
right,
zombie
yeah, yeah.
Wanda, because
Yes.
she's beat up and she's just
Yeah.
like dragging that leg behind,
Yeah.
which is just freaky. So Book of Ashanti breaks it's our MacGuffin, our overpowered MacGuffin that makes no sense, just gone.
Yeah.
And then, moving from there, we have the Darkhold gets destroyed, and they go to the temple, which is just cool. And I like it's so cool. And they're like, this is not a tomb, it's a temple, and you're just like,
yeah. Oh no.
damn.
This isn't a tomb. This is a throne. I
A
think was
throne,
the-
it's-
I remember. That scene was so funny because I do remember when she said like, "This isn't a tomb," and then the person who was like a couple seats down from me goes, "What?" And I look at Andres who's sitting next to me. And I just go, "It's a throne." And then she goes, "It's a throne." I'm like, "Let's go. Called that.
I thought it was just cool just because, like, there was, like, it was like Wanda really is that powerful. Like,
Yeah.
they gave her a throne, and they
They
didn't even know who.
prophesized it, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm trying to figure out. So we go to the other reality. Reality's falling apart, and I thought all of this and at this point, America Chavez had been taken.
Yes.
She'd been
Captured,
taken
yeah.
by Wanda. So they go to this other reality, and I thought this was just really cool because you were able to see a really bad version of Doctor Strange. Our Doctor Strange, who is good, but also some little bits there with Christine, and then they had just a weird scene with the music notes.
That was
That just was
yeah.
fun and weird. I was like kind
Yeah.
of like, I don't like this, but I kind of liked it.
like,
I was
it's
like,
so absurdly cheesy, but like it's like, yeah, like this is two wizards just like going at it with magic, and it's like, oh yeah, let me just use some music notes to throw at this guy. It's like, all right, this is cool.
So they got beat up by like the treble and bass clefs.
Literally.
That was really weird.
Yeah. Or like the harp thing right at the end where he just like flicks the one last note, and it's so good.
yeah, no. So I thought that was cool. What did we all think about reality breaking universe? That Doctor Strange, how that scene all went down.
I think it was definitely good to like kind of see like that perspective of like what Strange could become for him, especially like for his character development, just to kind of see where it's like, I can't go down that road. Almost seeing like the what if storyline of like him collapsing that reality, becoming all powerful, whatever. He's almost seeing that in this Strange. So I think that was a really good way to kind of like show that of like, okay, like, this is what you could become. Like you need to be able to like kind of like let go of Christine and understand that like you can't have her like, no matter what, because you're trying to fight Wanda, who has the Darkhold, and this Doctor Strange is literally using the Darkhold for his own purposes. Like you can go down this path if you don't like actually try and work on yourself. And it's like you can't just ignore that. You have to work on yourself as a person, not just as a wizard. Which I really like that.
Yeah. I think you said it pretty well. I don't have really much to comment on that.
Yeah.
And I think what's really cool is, even despite all of this, like thing that Doctor Strange needs to be the one to make the decisions, and he makes bad ones, he still freaking opens the Darkhold.
No, he still does it. Yeah.
But this time he tells Christine, like, listen, I need you. Like,
Yeah.
you need to watch after my body.
That's the difference.
And I think at this point, I was just like, after the music notes, I was just like, this has just gone off the rails, like, cool
Yeah.
for me. And I know some people were like, it was so predictable. I had completely forgotten by this point that there was a dead body there, and I did not think of the
Yeah.
trailers. And
Yeah.
he said, when Christine goes, don't you need someone's alive body to go into it? I was like...
It was like, oh my god. Like, that's what this is. Like,
I know, Jacob, you had said that was predictable.
No. I didn't see that coming. I saw using the kids. That,
Oh, okay, yeah, you saw the end.
oh, later on. Yeah, I see.
That makes sense. But I was I was just like, and to see his body come out and just cracking around
Yeah.
and like the chunk
That was
out of
good.
his side.
Out of his jaw. Yeah, dude, that was really good. Mm-hmm. Or
And all by
Justin, I
this-
think you were saying the one time about how like you really liked how, wasn't it Christine said something about how like he should use like the spirits?
Yes, he says, because he's starting to struggle. Like the spirits are possessing him. And he says, "You are like the master of the mystic arts. Control them."
Yeah.
And he just like clicks. And I think it's really just cool because like he thinks he can do everything himself, and Christine's like, no, like have confidence. You've got this. Like you are a master of like this is what you do. And it's just really cool because you just see him like pretty much just like snap him on. They throw on as his cape, and you're just like,
It's like,
It's just like, it
we're
took-
doing this.
yeah. I was just like, here we go. And I think the final action scene is underwhelming.
Yeah.
Like they don't really use it to the full extent they could have. But even with the demon seeing it, I was like, that was cool. But that's not what the movie's about, and I think that's what some people get away from. The movie was about Doctor Strange developing as a character, America Chavez finding the confidence in her abilities, and about the tragedy of the Scarlet Witch, and that's what I think they nailed.
Yeah.
Like, and they gave Doctor Strange the opportunity. Like Doctor Strange was not the one who put Wanda away.
No.
It was America Chavez.
Yep.
She put her away, and I know, Jacob, you said that scene was predictable, so I wanted to get your thoughts on it. But I love the scene where America Chavez decides to just send her to a universe and show her kids. So, like, Jacob, like, why did you, I'm sure you didn't like the scene as much because you thought it was predictable.
No, I kind of like I thought. I was thinking that they like. There's no way America Chavez can beat Wanda. Like that would be a total. Like that would totally change everything we've learned about Wanda as a character, like the power dynamics and the power balances. But um, I was thinking that she's gonna have to get stopped in some way. And we've constantly been like seeing how Wanda interacts around her kids and how much she wants her kids. So I can't remember what, but there's something else I've seen before where there's kind of was like it was kind of a very similar situation in which the parent is basically shown their kid like is shown to be like a monster in front of their kids, and that's kind of where it clicks for them. I can't remember what that is from. It's kind of bugging me that I can't remember, but I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking that it was probably going to have to be something similar because that's the only way she's going to be stopped. Like she's going
Well,
to have to be shown how she's a monster because otherwise it's going to be like an Infinity War esque ending where the villain just wins and you're just like, what? You know, but you know that can't happen because Multiverse of Madness. While we all went into it thinking, okay, this has the potential to be like game changing movie. I knew it's not going to be that game thing. You know, at the end of
No.
the day, the heroes are going to have to win. Wanda's going to have to have some she's going to have to I guess recognize her actions and like change at some point or just stop being like as evil as she was. So I was thinking, okay, she's probably going to get shown like get put in front of her kids, and then boom, she's going to have to stop. So that's basically it. And I'll try to think about what that was that I've seen that is similar to it.
well, I don't know what specifically you're thinking of, but I know that is very similar to the What If episode with Doctor Strange, where like he turns into the monster, whatever. Then Christine finally sees him, and then she's
Yes.
like, "Oh my God, what are you?" And he's like, "Oh, I become the monster, whatever." But I do know that that's definitely from somewhere else, where it's like the parents are revealed to be whatever. I'm sure that is a thing.
I can't remember what it is, but
Peter, what did you think about that kind of ending?
So I did like it. I will say it wasn't like a big reveal for me because it was somewhat predictable, but that didn't make it any less impactful kind of seeing that. Because I think Elizabeth Olsen's performance was amazing with that, like how she was able to really convey. It's like you kind of see like behind her eyes where it was like, I've become a monster. Like I need to fix this. Like this, like these aren't my kids. Like as much as I might want them, it's like they don't want me because
Yeah.
I'm not their mother. And like I think that was just like a really good dynamic. Like just actually seeing that happen was like I thought was amazing. But yeah, like I just like the scene. I kind of saw it coming a little bit, but I still really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I dug it. I think the scene where like the real Wanda from that universe touches her face and it's just like and says like just know they'll be cared for or something. We talked about it in our episode that
Yeah.
got deleted, but just like know they'll be loved or something.
Yeah,
and you're
no,
just
they'll be
like,
loved. Oh.
yeah, no, they'll be loved, and you're just like, you can just tell that even like changed Wanda a little bit, and she makes the sacrifice. I think we all,
Sacrifice.
yeah, I think we all know she's not dead.
She's not dead.
But and I think we're just kind of skipping over details so we can get some last minute thoughts in here.
Yeah.
But I think Doctor Strange bowing to Wong at the end is a nice little cool thing,
Yeah.
just kind of to complete Doctor Strange's arc a little bit.
Yep.
So I guess I'm gonna turn to you. I've done a lot of talking this episode, and I want to know both of you guys kind of where do you think the MCU goes from here? What do you hope to see? Where do you think this movie kind of takes things?
So I know that like I was praising Doctor Strange for being weird. I don't know if I said that in this episode or the previous one that got
Yeah.
deleted because of whatever, but I do really appreciate how this got weird. It got comic book weird. It was like really trying to lean into everything, but it kind of is a little bit annoying that in every single Marvel movie that's come out recently, it's like always the end of the world every single time. And now it's not even the end of the world, it's the end of like the multiverse. And
Yeah.
it's like the stakes are always the highest in every single show and movie. And it's like, okay, we get it. They're bad. They don't have to destroy the universe to tell me that somebody is bad or not. So I think that's actually why I kind of liked the very beginning of Shang-Chi a lot, because it was a lot more grounded and a lot more just like, hey, like, this is also happening while all this other crazy crap is happening, but then that also kind of just jumped the shark by the end of it, and again, trying to be the end of the world, whatever. But
Yep.
I do think they are going to try and lean into, like, a lot more of, like, that weird comic book stuff, but I do kind of hope they come back to, like, some grounded storylines, like with, like, a Spider-Man, like with more, like, street-level crime and, like, stuff like that, where it's, like, you have those grandiose stories happening while also having these very character-driven stories going on. Wow, this, like, crazy overarching plot is also going on.
Personally, I don't have an analysis that's like that. I think in terms of what Doctor Strange will do, obviously there's going to have to be something with Dormammu or something kind of resembling Dormammu, given the first post-credit scene. Now, I think now would be a perfect time to say my wild theory. So,
Yes.
I recently watched Deadpool for the first time, and yeah. And one thing I've noticed in Deadpool is that the X-Men are in there, just for a little bit, but they are in there.
Mm-hmm.
So, one thing that Deadpool is known for is breaking the fourth wall, right? That's what the term is. And
Yep.
for our listeners at home, that's basically when like you're in a movie or TV show, and basically the characters in the TV show or movie interact like directly with the audience. So
Are aware of their existence, yeah.
right. So in the second post credit scene of Doctor Strange, that happens. You know, basically it is a joke saying, you waited all of this time to watch the second post credit scene, and it's just like a guy that has stopped punching himself finally. But it's also letting you know that the movie is over. That's also kind of breaking the fourth wall, I would say, right? So, with that,
Jacob, do you know who that person is?
that's Bruce Campbell, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I thought you just said some guy. I was like, do you know who that is? Okay,
Yeah. So,
good.
so with that, and the inclusion of Professor X in Multiverse of Madness,
Okay.
the theory is that
Okay.
they will be introducing Deadpool, because Ryan Reynolds also came out and said, if I recall correctly, that the next Deadpool movie will be canon to the MCU. So I looked this up. I could be wrong. You can check it afterwards. But I believe that to be true. So by them breaking the fourth wall in the second post-credit scene of Doctor Strange, not only were they poking fun at us, but they were slightly hinting Deadpool will be coming in the MCU. Now that's a stretch, obviously. It's a total stretch. I feel like the dots connect. They don't connect, the ways they should. Obviously,
The
Jake,
only
I
thing...
just feel like your theory could just be shot down by the fact that they're just gonna be like, yeah, it's canon now, and you're like talking about all this breaking the fourth wall, and it just might be like, yeah, Deadpool's been here all the whole time.
well,
Also,
I'm
the
saying
death
Deadpool's-
of Professor X in this universe doesn't mean that there are no X-Men. Like,
Yeah.
there's obviously going to be X-Men at some point.
I know, but I'm saying now that Professor X was introduced in the MCU, that means X-Men are going to have to probably be in it in the future. So
Yeah.
since the X-Men were in Deadpool too,
So you're saying Deadpool is going to be the introduction of the X-Men?
I'm saying that because the X-Men are likely going to be in the MCU, Deadpool will also be.
Okay.
So,
That's fair.
yeah, that's my wild theory that I've come up with.
All right.
So
With a couple seconds in outro I will just say that I think Marvel needs to tread carefully. They have taken risks, and I think some of them have paid off. I think some of them haven't. I think No Way Home was a big dub in most people's eyes. This film was very polarizing. Eternals was a flop. So I think they need to be careful. I'm quite excited for Miss Marvel coming out. It has not had the hype everyone does, but if you look at the trailers, it's more kid-like too, but it is a lot less hearted, probably less like big stakes and more just let's have fun with the character. Now maybe if it goes too kiddie, it won't be like great, but I do think it could be a little bit of a breath of fresh air. Thor: Love and Thunder will have impacts on the future of the MCU, but also just looks like a more like lighthearted, goofy film.
yeah,
So hopefully that's kind of how the MCU goes for a little bit. That is going to conclude our Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness review. Obviously, tons of polarizing opinions just out there, and so like if you're watching it, don't listen. You don't need to agree with us. Like drop your own thoughts in like our Instagrams or our YouTube comments. Andre's really not high on this film. I don't think Raj is either. They're not here right now, so. Thank you guys all for listening. Go comment on our tier list. Tell us your tier list, and we will see you next time.